Hello, friends. I had to do that, right? Because we're going to be talking about the Masters a little bit today, but you are experiencing a nooner with me, Dave LaMont, with mismatched earbuds because they're old and they're all tied up. So if you're wondering why it looks that way, it's because I'm cheap and haven't bought the new ones yet. Or actually, I can't find them. Anyhow, or as Jim Brockmeyer would say, any hoodles. We do have a look at the Masters, two parts. Part one today is a little bit of a different look than I think you're used to seeing because of the unusual nature of this year's Masters. And part two will be the more traditional, who do you think is going to win kind of deal. And that will be with my friend Ray Boone from the Ray Boone Golf Academy. That's Monday. But first, a few other things that have come up that very interesting news in baseball. First off, you know who's going to be back as manager of the Red Sox? The guy that was suspended, Alex Cora, got his job back, served a 1-year suspension for being involved in the Astros scandal. Cora was a bench coach when they won the 2017 tainted World Series. Gets a job out of that as the Red Sox manager. And what does he do? They win the World Series. Yippee-ki-yay. 2019 comes along, not so hot, and then they find out that he was part of the 2017 Astros. Now, this gets even more complicated. So the 2018 Red Sox were also accused of not being honest, and they did, in fact, suspend their video coordinator for setting up some things he shouldn't have, but not Cora. Cora's punishment was a 1-year deal for 2017. Same thing for the manager, A.J. Hinch, and the general manager. Well, guess who's back in baseball? A.J. Hinch. The Detroit Tigers just signed him. And now Cora, by all means, by all signs, is going to be back, pardon the expression, signs, is going to be back with the Red Sox. So there's two ways to look at this, and I do always like to look at both sides. One, he served his punishment, and like anybody else who's been punished and they've served that time, they deserve another opportunity. Two, the punishment wasn't nearly strong enough, and guys like that should be banned for life. Now, that sounds a little harsh. As soon as I said it, I went, damn, Dave. But I'll guarantee you that there's going to be plenty of folks out there, maybe you, who thinks that that's the right punishment. I am going to lean toward he served his time. I really don't think the Red Sox or the Tigers under A.J. Hinch are going to be banging trash cans next year and using Apple Watches and satellite feeds and aliens and all the other stuff they've been accused of using. Kind of don't see it. There's always been cheating in baseball, as you know, on milder forms. But there's been binoculars and sign stealing and radios. And, you know, it's a sport that kind of lends itself to that. I'm not justifying what happened with the Astros in the slightest. And I really don't think they should have been able to hold on to their title. But they served their suspensions, and they have a right to seek employment in the game if the game wants them back. And guess what? The game wants them back. The Red Sox tried Ron Renicky, and they weren't very good this year anyway. The Red Sox, they weren't expected to be good. They lost Mookie Betts, you know, a high quality player, and they just kind of puttered through the season. So that's that story. The NBA will be back, and I think in a victory for the league, they got the Players Union to agree to a 72-game season that starts in about 6 weeks and goes to July. So that's fascinating. It says they're going to do shorter road trips because the NBA, the Utah Jazz used to request the Christmas road trip. They'd go on like a 12-day road trip around Christmas time so their players wouldn't be in the idea of their coach and management distracted by the Christmas holidays. That is true. And you could do that kind of thing. You could say, hey, look, could we possibly have our big East? So the Jazz would go east and they'd come down here and they'd go to Orlando and they'd play like Boston and Charlotte and whatever and get all their East Coast travel out of the way at Christmas time. Plus, you come down near Christmas time, you're going to get some great weather. So I'll be interesting to see how the schedule comes out. I'll be interesting to see. Now, don't forget, not every team played in the bubble. You've got some teams that didn't qualify for the bubble, like Golden State, Cleveland, for example, the Knicks, who don't even qualify for the NBA, quite honestly. But so, look, I like the NBA. I'm happy that it'll be back soon. The other thing is the NFL, and you can't spell NFL or COVID, I should say, without NFL. You can, but you can't. According to Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, something I just read a few minutes ago, 15 teams in one way or another are affected by COVID going into this weekend. We've already seen the Detroit Lions had to put their quarterback on the COVID list, even though he didn't test positive because he was around someone who did. That's not a news you want on your fantasy football notices, I can tell you that right now. But the Dolphins are among that. Didn't say who. And I don't have the complete list of teams, but 15. I know the Ravens are on that list. And then the NFL, and I talked to you all about this before, the carelessness of some of the coaches. Now, Mike Tomlin got burned in a post-game celebration that cost him $100,000. It was announced today. The Steelers, $250,000 fine. The Raiders, who are multiple offenders, especially Gruden, $150,000 out of Gruden's pocket and $500,000 out of the Raiders' pocket. Now, again, these are franchises that are worth billions of dollars. That would be like if I got fined $25 for running a stop sign. But the point is, knock it off, is what the NFL is trying to say. So I have to think suspensions are next. Tomlin, I believe, is a first offender. Gruden has done it about every single game. I literally could see the NFL sitting his butt down for a game to try to get a message across. Now, I don't know what his problem is. That's his business. But if it affects his wallet, and again, for Gruden, $150K, that's not much. That's tip money for a lot of these guys. So the interesting thing is, and we've had college football changed up. Hell, the Pac-12 canceled the game, and they haven't even started yet. They canceled Washington and Cal Berkeley. A couple of other games have been PPD'd. One in the American, one like a cross-rival, cross-conference matchup, not happening or postponed. It's just going to be a pain in our butt the rest of the year. That's all there is to it. It's going to probably affect college basketball at some point. A lot of programs have dealt with it. Fortunately, the season hasn't started. Schedules are out. Fans will be limited at some places. Haven't heard all of them. So just deal with it. That's all we can do until we get this thing fixed. And you know what else it has affected? That's right. If only I had the music. But there's probably some copyright thing, and I'll get sued, and that'll be the end of that. So I'm not going to do it. But imagine now the theme. I think Dave Loggins wrote it. No relation to Kenny, I believe. From the Masters. And you're like, Dave, it's November 6th. What are you doing? Yeah, well, as you know, most of you, the Masters is coming up next week in November. That's right. In a year like no other, a tournament like no other, and a tradition like no other, and hopefully we never have it again. Now, there's another angle to this that maybe you all haven't thought about, but I know my guest has. Suzanne Sinisgalli is in the hospitality industry, has been for a long time, managing restaurants in the Aiken, South Carolina, and Augusta area. They're neighbor cities practically. And Suzanne, first off, thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be
here. How you doing? Yeah, how you doing, by the way? I haven't seen you in a few weeks.
Yeah, right? We're back there, yeah.
And nice scenery. I have a bare wall behind me. You have a Masters flag. I'm impressed.
I searched for it. I got it. I did it. And the mug too.
Oh, well, see, I'm drinking a 3-day-old Starbucks cup. All right, let's talk for a second, because you and I were, and this is what made me think about it. We were at dinner in South Carolina celebrating a dear, dear friend's birthday. And you were telling me some stories, some master stories. And it got me thinking, well, wait a minute, that's April. That's normal. There are no patrons allowed this year. So what's the impact, do you think, going to be like on the hospitality industry in that area?
So let me preface by, stating some normal statistics.
Sure.
Obviously, in April, Masters Week brings in 250,000 people and in the hospitality industry, we consider Masters Week Sunday to Sunday. Okay, because people start arriving in. You have press. You have the pro golfers coming in a couple weeks prior, obviously getting settled in. So during the tournament, Thursday through Sunday, the Augusta National takes in 40,000 patrons. The whole week, combined with practice rounds, etc. Like I said, you're talking about 250,000 people. So now this encompasses what we call here the CSRA. So the CSRA stands for the Central Savannah River Area. And the Central Savannah River area is from Augusta into Aiken, South Carolina. The Savannah River runs through it. It's right over the border. So the population of Augusta right now is right at 197,000 people. Okay.
All right.
And the CSRA, it's about 700,000, not even a million yet. Okay. Although Augusta is the second largest city in Georgia. So preparation into a normal April is starting in right after Christmas, preparing menus, preparing houses, preparing the city. You will see beautiful flowers come up, and that's really a spring cleaning for the Augusta area and into Aiken, South Carolina. The houses are rented for anywhere from $2,000 for the week to up to $15,000 for the week. It pays for people's taxes for the year. So when I was a private chef in the beginning, when I experienced Masters Week many, many moons ago, you know, you'd go into a house and you had, say, American Express who rented the house out, or, you know, any Reader's Digest, etc. Big, huge companies. And the house had plenty of room for all these people. You have to kind of go through a certain company to actually make sure your home is ready to go for these companies. But, you know, like I said, you think about what a restaurant does. For example, in those 8 days, they do a month worth of business. That is the volume they have to prepare for. So I mean, and that's only dinner service, really, because at lunch, for example, the hotels are empty, the houses are empty. Where's everybody? They're on the course. So, you know, this year with no patrons, and I have been honored to work at two fabulous restaurants that really get the best of everybody. I will say that. And we get NBC and we get press into the restaurants that I've worked at. And that's what we're expecting now is really just, you know, it's going to be busy, but unfortunately, if you go to book a hotel room, for example, plenty of room. And that's a sure tell sign. You know, usually the prices are $500 or more for a night, April, and you can't get a room. It's completely blocked or it's completely booked, especially now. Unfortunately, there's plenty of room. Houses are not rented. But the golf courses surrounding us, which we have some historic golf courses, Palmetto, the second oldest in the country. And of course, we have Sage Valley, which is a very, very high-end Shishi country club. Okay. And these people have had Masters tickets. So they're still kind of honoring some things with that. They're allowing them to play golf, for example, or, you know, so people will be here. The quality will be here, but not 300,000 people.
Has anybody put together a guesstimate of how much the bottom line this will cost the area?
Well, the Augusta National, I mean, of course, there's no comparison. They make about 115 million, right, in sales for the week. Of course, their pro shop is ridiculously successful, and it's fun. And I'm wearing one now from the Bobby Jones line that I got. That was $185, by the way. Wow. That was many years ago that I got. But and they allowed people with tickets to actually shop online, I believe yesterday or the day before, and only just 2 items. But you figure 115 million to the Augusta National, and then you're talking, again, $250,000 for restaurants, hotels, and separately, one restaurant this, one restaurant that, you know, plus any kind of extra hospitality, catering, of course, is huge. You know, private dinners, you know, and of course, being in the service industry, having been a server, the tips.
Yes, yes.
You know, I mean, you are making, if you're good at what you do and you have a solid schedule for the week and you're at the right place, of course, you know, I mean, you're making minimally $2,000 in tips up to $5,000. Sometimes $6,000, depends who you get. You know, it depends how you schmooze, and it depends if they like you and the energy's great. And And it's wonderful. It's a great week. I miss it very much, and hoping for this April to be normal.
Yeah. Is there any word on that at all? Is it just too early to read the tea leaves on that?
The hopes are there. Too early to say anything, concrete and definitive on that. We're all just taking it day by day. It's definitely a weird time. But yeah, there's no word. It's looking like it, but anything can change.
What about the weather? I haven't even looked into that yet. What's that going to be like?
Weather is fall and spring kind of mixed together.
Okay.
There's leaves everywhere. So there's that. And, the weather right now, it's about 75 today, 78. It's absolutely perfect. South Carolina, honestly, being raised in Miami from upstate New York, it is the greatest in between weather. It really is. And I think it'll be great for the golfers. And I'm also curious to see, without patrons, how the golfers perform.
Yes.
Obviously, the Augusta National has extremely strict rules, and, but, having no patrons, I would bet they'll perform better.
You see, I'm not sure about that for this reason. Well, there's two ways to look at that. Again, here I say that again. One is the famous Sunday back nine roars that can be heard all over the course. True. And a guy is standing over a shot, and he hears something, and he's trying to now figure out, oh, okay, that's a good roar, which is bad for me because it's not my roar. Is that a birdie? Is that an eagle on 15? Is that some crazy shot that, how does that affect me? The silence, because it's the sport that thrives on silence, it may help the concentration, but I also wonder, the whole course is going to look different. As well as I do, for 4 days a week, the backdrops are just people. It's a sea of people. Sometimes it actually helps you if you hit an errant shot, you bump it into somebody and hits them, the ball drops, you're okay. So you're going to lose that angle for some of the holes, not all of them. I think a guy gets hot and he gets the crowd on his side. He's not going to have that now. And the conditions of the course, I don't know how much different it's going to be. And that's something I'm going to talk to my friend, the golf pro, about on Monday. But obviously, we both know it's immaculate. I've never had a chance to be. I've driven by it.
Well, I'll try to get you in if you want to come up.
I think you know the answer to that.
But I will say, knowing some of the gentlemen who, worked for them. Yeah. I've known them personally, and they came into a restaurant that I worked at for 9 years. And you don't see them Masters Week. First of all, you see them prior, and the very last day, Sunday after, they come and they party.
I'd say, yeah, they need a stiff one after that.
You cannot turn around. If you put a cup down at the Augusta National, you turn around, it's gone.
Yeah.
It is like Disney World for golf.
Yeah.
And it is, yes, as you said, immaculate. Those guys work so hard, and they're the best in the country in horticulture, in landscaping, they have the best of the best. These guys are passionate for what they do. And it's quite amazing. I wish all of Augusta kind of looked like that. Although the Augusta National was in charge of, what they're doing is they're buying now all these properties down the road, which it's called Washington Road. It's kind of like everyone's main drag.
Yeah.
Miami's US 1 or whatever you want to say, right off the highway. And the Augusta National obviously capitalizes on the parking margin. Because back in the day, if you had a house close by, you tried to take cars into your lawn and pay for parking, and that also was a great money.
Yes.
But now the Augusta National has purchased property after property after property of rundown, either empty buildings, apartment buildings. So in my opinion, I believe they're creating you get off and it's somewhat of I don't want to say resort.
Village, maybe might be a word.
A golf village, if you will. So currently they just purchased, like in March, a Wendy's. that's down the road. So yes, yes. And the money, of course, we know is, I mean.
Well, what blows me away, and you touched on it by mentioning just the cost of that shirt that you have and how well they do with concessions, because nobody who goes to the Masters fails to show up at the tent to get some kind of souvenir. They only sell during the week of the tournament. If they opened that up to 52 days or 52 weeks, 24 hours a day, you wake up at 4 a.m. because you can't sleep and you can order a Masters pullover, the amount of money they would make could buy they could buy the entire state of Georgia if they wanted to, but they don't need it. That's the thing that absolutely blows my mind. They don't care.
They don't need it. And, they do have moments of private where employees, like, again, when I worked at the restaurant I worked at, the landscaper guys were like, you want something? I can go in. They have a day where they'll allow members, the employees, but it's like 1 day a year or 2 day a year, they'll open it to them. So if you know somebody, you give them $100 and you say, get me a mug.
Knock yourself out. Yeah, exactly.
I was lucky. I had a lot of great customers who would, just bring me a flag, a t-shirt. And some of these guys held the flag. That's what they did. They lifted up the flag when they're, I was so lucky to know that. But the sales are ridiculous, and they've actually revamped their whole, they used to have just the counters where you would go buy stuff. Now it's like a grocery store. It's like one register after the other, just like a department store. Before it was like a boutique. You go up to the counter, I want that shirt. They get it for you. Now it's a complete, it's just a money machine, like you said. And if they open it all year round, but they don't need to.
It could be. Oh,
unbelievable.
No, they don't. It would be a headache, and they turn into like Amazon Augusta, and they don't need to do that. I'll tell you something else they do, Suzanne, because I think the image of that country club is a staid, extremely conservative, and some of that is accurate. But they've embraced technology. They have an app that I use during the week at the tournament that is phenomenal. It is the best, maybe the best sporting app I've ever seen. And I would urge anybody who's going to watch the event, or maybe won't be able to watch all of it and wants to keep up, to get that Masters app. It is phenomenal. And I find it interesting because they embraced technology. They don't have to. Again, they could coast, and in some ways I guess they do, but they've shown a willingness to keep up with the times. And what you're suggesting is this potential Masters Village, which I remember you telling me about a couple of months ago now. It's an interesting dichotomy between the old money and yet also not turning their back on new things. And that's actually a pretty darn smart way to run your business.
And what they also did, I don't know if people knew or know, is that they built a tunnel, just like they did in Boston? Maybe.
The Big Dig.
They built a tunnel underneath the road. This was just recently. This was to prepare for April. This was pre-pandemic. The tunnel will allow people to go under instead of, when you're on Washington Road, RUS 1, if you will, it is vendors, it is people scalping tickets, et cetera, right? You can imagine. I mean, people are all, and there's no sidewalks. This is a road that has grocery stores and car dealerships, and there's not really no sidewalks. But people plant themselves there, try to scalp tickets as well as sell tickets. That's another financial factor right there. But so the Augusta National built this tunnel to go under, which will be great because the traffic is horrific. And, again, when you live in a big city, you're used to it. But that week we become a big city in 1 week. Okay. Yeah. So, the tunnel is going to be excellent. So they did that as well. It's technology, but with road. And I'll tell you what, if the Augusta National was in charge of highways and byways and roads, it would be immaculate. It would be immaculate because they have built a couple roads, and it's quite unreal. And it's so funny how people, they don't know when you talk to someone who really doesn't know. I had a friend of mine mention something like, I'm going to go and I'm going to jump the wall. And I laughed. I said, I'll bail you out of jail. They don't understand, really, it's a fortress,
Well, I was going to say, I've driven on Washington Road, and I've actually gone by, and our friend Carrie said, "Oh, here's and you can't see anything." She points at it. Well, it's over there, and it's all brush and trees and fence, and there is squatola chance of seeing anything. A blade of grass, a lost golf ball. That's not happening. I mean, it is a private country club. People need to remember that, and they have the right to do it. It's their property. But yeah, fortress is a perfect word for it. I feel like if somehow I stuck a finger through the fence, 55 alarms would go off, and there'd be a net, and I'd be suspended, over the highway until the police showed up.
As you know, it is the most prestigious golf tournament in the world. Not the country, in the world. People come from all over. The Green Jacket. It is Mecca. It is the Super Bowl of golf. Yes, you can have as many majors as you want, but it is, and meeting so many people through the years that I've met that, when they call, they're so excited to come. And this is on my bucket list. And my dad and I watched the Masters all of our lives together. And those are the wonderful moments that I enjoy being in F&B, is meeting the people who just are in awe. They just want to touch the grass. And it's a beautiful moment when people can mark it off their bucket list, except, instead of the corporations that just easily get these badges that are $4,000 to $5,000 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a badge. Okay. Practice rounds are $2+, 300, 300. You can afford to kind of go to practice. But the people that come and just, like I said, are in awe, crossing it off bucket list. It's a wonderful experience to be part of that. Growing up in Miami, you always saw big things like that. A star celebrity coming in, it wasn't a big deal. It was Masters Week every weekend. You had 2-hour waits. That's the norm. But here it's a whole, it's a very special week, exciting week, and you just never know who you're going to see, which is also a fun factor, the celebrity factor.
That's what I was going to ask you I know you have stories, and I don't want you to burn anybody. So let's talk about maybe 2 or 3 people that you've encountered who were really great, went out of their way to be super nice or maybe super generous, and people that you like, that person, is on my Christmas list.
Wow. Well, I will say, Tom Watson, I was working at a restaurant called T-Bones, which is very, very popular in the Masters world and in Augusta. Tom Watson celebrated his retirement there with 40 of his closest friends. And Tom Watson and his wife, God rest her soul, were extremely gracious. They would come every year regardless and sit with just 5 people, and always gracious and sweet and nice. And for me, golf is wonderful. My father watched Masters, but Tom Watson is just that level. When you mention his name, people know who he is. So on the golf celebrity, I would say that's great. And when he was celebrating his retirement, Dave Faraday, who him are best friends. I really didn't know who he was. I was blocking the door to let him in, and he was like, "No, I need to be in the room." And I was like, "Well, I was told and then someone looked at me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." That was a funny moment. I met Sugar Ray Leonard. Hello, he's walking through the restaurant. What? A big part of this is, of course, the owner who really created that culture. He worked hard to build that culture, and I respect that. And it's because of him that happened. Also, singer wise, of course, Darius Rucker.
Oh yeah.
Great guy, man. I could have totally left in his bus with his crew, man. Incredibly wonderful. Mike Mills from REM.
Oh yeah.
Amazing conversation, a brilliant musician. And then the last one I guess I will mention is Shane McMahon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was my first Masters, and I'm exhausted, and it was very, very late. And he walked in. I didn't know who he was. I'm not a wrestler person.
Sure.
And him and I just started talking. Huge guy. I could tell he was by the way he was dressed. He was definitely a wealthy person, but I didn't know who he was. And then everybody started coming up to me saying, "Oh, you're talking to so-and-so." And that was interesting. And he was very quiet, very cool. Again, what I know is everybody wants to be treated the same. And Chuck Lorre, another one, great guy,
TV producer. Yep.
Absolutely. Amazing guy. And then also the people that work for the golfers. I had a guy come in wanting to eat, and someone had said the kitchen was closed, and it was midnight. And I said, oh, no. Come on in, sit down. The restaurant's empty, the bar's working. And he sits down, and he said, order me whatever you want. So I ordered him food, and the server took care of him. And he ended up to be the man who does the sports medicine for the golfers, for Tiger, their shoulders, or, you just don't know who it is, no matter what they look like, even if you don't know who they are. And then where I live in Aiken, Kevin Kisner's from here. And he's an incredible guy, has a great foundation. He works with kids, Dustin Johnson comes into the restaurant I manage now. And so, it's cool. It's cool. And it's only that week, that you really get to see them. Although Kevin's local, he's normal.
Yeah.
He all the time.
Normal. All right. Last question. The excitement level in the area, higher or lower, the same for this event?
Lower, just kind of like, we don't know what to expect. We're not going to go out of, we're not going to, order a lot of product. We're not going to, go broke to get ready for it. Cause we know by what's rented around us, what's not rented around us, that's how we tell. And so usually you order up, you change your menu, you up the price, you do a few things. This week, now it's like any normal week, and you hope to get great quality people coming in that spend money.
So if people want to go eat where Dustin Johnson and Kevin eat and can run into you, where in Aiken can they go?
So I work at a steakhouse called Prime Steakhouse, and it's in the heart of downtown Aiken. It's a high-end steakhouse, really great, dry-aged, organic, grass-fed beef. So it's a great product.
Fantastic. Yeah. Suzanne, thank you so much. It was wonderful talking with you again. Thank you for taking the time. And, it's an interesting angle, and I'm glad we could put this together. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
That'll do it for this week's Nooner. Thanks again to Suzanne. And on Monday, we'll pick this Masters conversation up from the golfer's perspective with my friend Ray Boone from the Ray Boone Golf Academy. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. I'm Dave LaMont. I'll see you with another Nooner on Monday.